Hello, I'm Derek. I am here today to talk about security concerns for single-page apps and to hopefully convince you that the internet is a really terrifying place. But first, thank you to 500 Tech. Thank you to Betterment for hosting us and all of my retirement money. So this is me. I'm Derek. I am a staff software engineer at Transfix. We're hiring. We do kind of very neat things, I think, with software in the logistics industry. You should ask us. There's a few of us here. You should ask us about them. Also, we're hiring. Did I say that? The internet is a great invention. It really has changed our lives kind of in countless positive ways, but it has a dark side. Privacy in the form of yours and your customers' data really is lost, leaving us all at risk from shady individuals and companies and security agencies. So this presentation today, we're going to take two different approaches. I'm going to talk about the first way we at Transfix kind of handle some of these concerns with kind of this like top-down, holistic, framework-agnostic direction. And then I'm also going to go dive into some kind of JavaScript and React-specific issues and ways to improve and hopefully prevent some of those. So we are an AWS shop at Transfix. So I'm going to talk about this AWS tool or a couple of tools that we use. They kind of give us a lot of, these security things kind of out of the box, like this DDoS protection, cross-site scripting protection, SQL injection prevention, all out of the box. But today I'm going to talk about CloudFront and what's called Lambda at Edge events. And this is the way that, like I said, we handle things. So basically, all that this is just Lambda. We all know what Lambda functions are. If not, they're just functions that run serverless or on somebody else's server, basically. The Lambda at Edge events, however, run at 4 different edge, or all the edge locations, but 4 different CloudFront events that will trigger these. Here's a diagram. So the very first one, you can imagine a user entering your site. They trigger the very first one, the viewer request event. If you don't have anything loaded in cache, it will then trigger the next one, the origin request. Pull all your data from the server. There's an origin response event. All of that gets loaded back into your cache, and then there's the viewer response event, and then the user, sees things. Today we only care about this one, the origin response. That's the only one we're going to be talking about today. And this is what we're fixing. So this from Mozilla, this tool called Observatory, you can plug in any website, and it will grade you on a few kind of security checklist items. So I set up just kind of like the worst of the worst example of what like a single page app with no security concerns whatsoever. This is what it would look like. You can see very poorly. And so this is how we're going to go and fix this. The origin response is the best because essentially it takes your that response. You can modify headers. Those response headers are what we're going to be talking about specifically in this portion. There's a couple of really important ones. The first 3. This first one is great. Even if you have your security certificate, your app is on HTTPS, there's still, if somebody lands on the non-HTTPS domain, there's still a brief moment before that redirect kicks in. And that's prime time for a man-in-the-middle attack. They could very easily exploit that and redirect you to whatever malicious site that they choose. The content security policy, this is a meaty one. This is a good one. This is where all of your rules for all the domains that your app is able to connect to. So if you're fully decoupled, your backend would be in there. If you have any kind of CDN, that would be in there. Third-party analytics, all that good stuff is in there. This also includes URLs that are loaded via CSS, and that's an important point. Remember that point. We're going to talk about it later. Referrer policy. This one, great for other people's analytics. It's not so good for your own security. You can imagine, like, if your search filters throw up query params that maybe some of these params match up to column names in your database, or they're displaying private user information. Maybe you want to consider hiding those things. So that's the referrer policy. One thing that's nice about some of these rules is that you can't get less restrictive. So if you are using no referrer attributes on all of your links and you have a really terrible referrer policy, those no referrer attributes will take precedence over this wide open, non-existent referrer policy you might have. These next 3, they're kind of optional. The very first one, content type, just means that your inline style tags, they better be CSS. Your inline script tags, they better be JavaScript. Hopefully you guys aren't using too many inline style and JavaScript things, but it's fine if you are. That's what this is for. X-frame options. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. Don't use iframes. Just turn this off. Just go ahead and do that. That's an easy one. XSS protection. Some browsers have this built in. You can choose to turn it off, turn it on from here if you'd really like to. Firefox will actually ignore and just do their own rules. But totally optional. If you have a really strong content security policy, just forget this one. It's fine. So this, look, it's just JavaScript. This is our origin response Lambda function. Now this example is extra secure. This is not realistic. So you probably wouldn't use this. You'd want to modify this, especially you can see that the content security policy, like I said, that is custom to you guys, your domain, your app. So using this example, I fired this up, ran it through that Mozilla Observatory, and hey, look at that. Amazing. How wonderful is that? We did so well with this super strict policy. I just wanted to point this out. We got some extra credit. I was very proud of this. It was great. So that's the non-React stuff. That's not why you guys are here. Obviously, you're all React developers. That's what you want to hear me talk about. So I'm going to talk about, like I said, a few very specific things that are specific to React, but some things that are just specific to kind of like client-side JavaScript frameworks. One nice thing about React or React DOM is that it does kind of escape everything for you. It's super helpful. Anything that's rendered in JSX, it will automatically escape. Sure, you might run into like double escaping issues, but that's peanuts compared to the security of your app. It does help prevent kind of a wide range of cross-site scripting attacks. So that's one pro for React for sure. So these other things, I'm going to talk about just a couple of things that are obvious vulnerabilities, and then I'm going to give you some kind of practical advice for how to prevent them. The first one, server-side rendering of HTML. It's wonderful, isn't it? It's great. So the most common use case for this is to essentially handle that initial render of your app so that when your user or your search engine crawler hits it, it's already pre-rendered HTML. It's great for performance, great for SEO. If you really do care about SEO, you're probably doing some of this already. It's so prevalent. In fact, Redux used to have, or still does have, great walkthrough for how to do this. Still maintaining your global store, but like I said, server rendering everything. There is one very obvious flaw in this tutorial, which thankfully they have since updated. Maybe you guys have already caught on to it, but that preloaded state, there's no reason you should be rendering anything without escaping, without sanitizing any of it. You can see they have a very big warning now with this tiny little replace function. But there's a huge section for security concerns about server-side rendering. So I recommend you read that before you really kind of dive in, especially if you want to use this on like a enterprise level. The other one, InnerHTML. This is probably not used as often anymore, especially not in React. I used to use it like way back when in another lifetime when I was working on building CMSs. So you'd imagine like we would have to display HTML that somebody would have dropped into whatever input. It is not a best practice. I will say that. I can't stress that enough, I guess. It's so bad, in fact, React renamed it. They called it dangerously set InnerHTML. They force you to type out dangerously every single time. It is so easy to inadvertently expose your users to some kind of XSS attack. They force you to use this HTML key. They just, I could go on and on about just how terrible it is. So I'm just going to come right out and say it. Just don't use it. It's Derek's stamp of disapproval. Just don't even bother with it. This next one, eval-based injection, also not as common, but again, another lifetime it was super common. Basically, all that it does is just a function that evaluates some kind of string as if it were a script and returns a result. This is one of those attacks that could be somewhat avoided by just simply sanitizing all of your inputs, all of your forms. But here's a great example where even that won't help you. So imagine this. I don't know why anybody would have this, but if you wanted to, for some reason, have an alert box, or I don't know, for some reason this exists. Don't ask why. You've inherited this legacy code. It's there. So it's very easy to just, with kind of a specially crafted URL that looks something like this, where some guy somewhere can drop this into the URL. Maybe that man-in-the-middle attack that I talked about before. All of your users are getting redirected to this ridiculous-looking URL. They don't know any better. and suddenly this person has access to everybody's cookies. It's just that simple. It seems so dumb, but it's possible if you don't pay attention. This one it's easy to prevent. I can't stress sanitizing inputs enough. Validate all your forms. Just please do that. It's so simple. Really though, the last bullet point is the most important one. And I took this straight from Mozilla's docs. There's a whole section on eval, and it is titled, "Do not ever use eval." I think that's very clear. So disapprove. CSS and JS, all the rage right now. Styled components, they're terrific. They really are. But CSS and JS, essentially you can think of it as like eval for CSS. Takes everything, just evaluates it, throws it in as if it were CSS. There are safe ways to do it. The style prop, if you use plain old dumb inline styles, anything you put into a style object is safe, that's fine. But if you are using inline styles, well, you shouldn't. But if you had to, the style prop is safe, so rest easy. And I know what you're probably thinking, like it is just CSS, it's dumb, it's just CSS, it's so simple. You're wrong, CSS is awesome. Number two, check this out. Say you've got like some kind of like theme editor, whatever, you can allow people to drop in hex codes, and then you're just going to take that hex code, not sanitize any of it, and just throw it straight into this form or onto this page, and suddenly some jabroni drops this into your unsanitized input, and snap, that's it. Anything that anybody types into any input on this page is now being logged letter by letter onto some server somewhere off in the ethos. So if your style components have props whose values are set by the user, sanitize your inputs. I know I've said that a million times, I'm going to keep saying it. So yes, red thing. So I know what you are all thinking right now, and you should be scared. But that's okay, because I am here, and I'm going to help you with a couple of practical tips. These three tools I like a lot. I'm going to start kind of like the top down. So very general, very broad, and then we're going to move down into more specific kind of tools. And I'm putting all these links on the very last slide, by the way, so you guys don't worry about missing out on any of these pictures. So if, for example, you're not able to modify your HTTP responses because, like I said, somebody else owns whatever deployment techniques. DevOps has kept it locked down. You can use a tool that I really like, React Helmet. It's especially great for server-side rendering and React Native. It's also somewhat helpful for anything that renders on the client side. But basically, all those headers that I was talking about earlier, you can throw most of them in as meta tags in your entry, your apps entry, and just let React Helmet kind of render the rest for you. Another one that I really like, this Sanitize tool that Yahoo created. This top example, this type of input unsanitized would have caused kind of any inline script to terminate, which essentially frees up some user to run their own stuff. You could, maybe you could stringify this. You might be thinking that, but sometimes like you can't just stringify and send a string, an unsafe string to the back end especially. So you need to escape everything. That's what this tool does. Escapes on a broad range, everything. Throw that into some middleware somewhere and go about your day. It'd be great. This other one is a lot more flexible, but also it's a bit more tedious. It's also from Yahoo. It's just called XSS Filter. There's a whole suite of functions that they built. You throw them on, this example, you can put them directly on the value prop on an input if you really wanted to. But you'll just have to read through it because there's just an infinite number of things you can double check. Like I said, it's very flexible, it's great, but it's also very tedious because you're throwing it in everywhere, every possible place, and nobody likes to have to copy and paste all the time. So that's it. I'm done now. And all those, when you guys have your cameras up, if you only take one selfie, this entire presentation, this next slide is the important one. This is where all the links are. So these are all the links. I use a lot of these blogs, a couple of these blogs. These are my favorite for security things. So definitely check these out. If you have any questions, and we ran out of time, that's my email. You can just Google my name. I'm the only one. Also, did I mention we're hiring? And yeah, that's it. Thank you. If you have a very strong content security policy, you're fine. Don't worry about it. You really could, yeah, you could use, pretty much whatever you want. Again, that content security policy, it dictates, it's a list of domains that your app is allowed to connect to. So if you're very strict about it, the browser will take care of the rest for you. Yeah, so you're free to do whatever you want. Yeah, he asked about React Helmet. Does it just magically do everything for you? Yes. No, you have to be very specific about kind of like the header, the meta tags that you really want to plop in there. I first discovered it for kind of SEO reasons. If you want like you need a different H1 or a different title tag, different description on every page. You're able to dynamically set that per page. It's also great for, like I said, throw it on your entry file. Just go through the list of like the best meta tags for security. Put all those as your default. Don't let anybody touch that file ever again, and you're good to go. And like I said, it really does handle everything else for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.